X-Men 97 episode 4 came out earlier today. Really quick, Maggie, give your spoiler-free general thoughts, and then we are going to dive into spoilers. So hit me with your non-spoiler thoughts real quick.
My non-spoilery thoughts is that I love Jubilee. I love how much her character has developed so far in X-Men 97. She's already a great character in the original animated series. And I love that this episode was such a perfect follow-through from a couple different episodes in season 2. And I think season 3, or maybe it's it's all season 2 stuff. Absolutely love that there was complete synergy there between the two series. Made me very happy. I think that's the most I can say. I liked it. It was a really fun episode.
I will say this is the most 90s episode that they've done yet, and I'm here for it.
Yes.
Those are my general thoughts of this episode. It is a great episode. So yeah, go watch it. If you have already watched it, or if you don't care about spoilers, we are officially getting into the spoiler part of the discussion for this episode. So I'm going to be abundantly clear. We are about to spoil the crap out of this episode. If you have not seen it, leave.
We're not kicking you out, but we are
come back later. We're doing
spoilers.
You a favor.
Yes, we are doing your favor. This is a really fun episode. You don't want it spoiled by us.
Watch the episode. It's like a half an hour long. Watch it. Come back.
Watch it twice. Come back.
Watch it twice. Then come back and hear our thoughts. And you can hit us up on social media to give us your thoughts. But yeah. So going into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So the episode is sort of like it's like two different stories being told, one that is the majority of the episode and then one that is the smaller part of the episode. Let's talk about the larger one first, which is Jubilee and Sunspot getting sucked into a video game.
Yes.
Which is a classic plot line. Something that you've seen across all sorts of different media. The episode opens up. It is Jubilee's 18th birthday. Everybody's super excited except for Magneto, because Magneto's he's a crotchety old man.
Magneto's like, my parents died when I was a child. I was like, dude.
I was waiting for the direct Holocaust drop, but he didn't mention how his parents died.
He's just like, yeah, something traumatic happened to me when I was a child.
Maybe he's waiting to pull that card out later on. He's like, I already pulled out my parents died card. I'm gonna hit him with the how later.
The dead parents card. Gotta love that Magneto's already pulled it out 4 episodes in. Poor Morph. They were just trying to be funny.
But that is when we got our little love triangle scene for this episode, because there's not a lot of the rest of the team in this episode.
No, but there is romance on many.
There is some romance, which we're going to get into.
There's a lot of romance in this episode, actually.
There's a lot of romance in this season, period. So we get a actually really entertaining back and forth about coffee between Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto. And once again, Magneto just showing up and just serving all over Gambit.
Magneto's just like, yes, I did show up to steal your girl.
And he is succeeding.
To
be honest with you, and I'm saying this as a straight white man, he would win.
Right?
With me as well. I'm here for it.
I'm just saying, I think Rumi should just embrace this. I think the 3 of them would be great together. Little throuple action. I think it works for him,
I don't know.
I loved Rogue's reaction to the entire thing, where she was just like, as soon as I saw there's an open seat next to her, I was just like, oh, I know what's about to happen. We're going to get the awkward love triangle. And she just looks so uncomfortable the entire time. And I was living for it. I was enough to sustain me. I was sad that we didn't get more of them, but I have survived on fewer crumbs than these. So this was enough of the crumbs to last me until next week. I want to know where this is going so badly.
I will say, as I was watching the episode, as soon as that scene happened, I wrote in my notes. And like that, Maggie immediately loves this episode.
Yes, instantly. Yeah. The entire episode started with them being their awkward little love triangle. I was so here for it. But
yeah, so Jubilee, it's her 18th birthday. She wants to go to an arcade, but Magneto ain't having none of that. So instead, she winds up hanging out in her bedroom with Sunspot, Roberto.
With Roberto.
Because I keep calling him Sunspot because that's who the character is and it's easier for me to remember. But we haven't called him that yet. So if I say Sunspot, I'm talking about Roberto. So they're hanging out in a room, and Jubilee notices that there is a suspicious, well, at least it would be suspicious to any other person, but it's not to Jubilee, game console with an X-Men game cartridge just sitting in her room, all hooked up, and it's called a Motendo, which, as Arrow Maxwell points out, is a Super Nintendo Sega Genesis mashup. And yeah, the game did look like the 1993 X-Men video game cartridge. Specifically, I believe the Genesis game. I think it's where that artwork is from, or at least what it's alluding to. Which is brilliant. Fantastic little bit of nerd connections there, which almost makes up for them missing a nerd connection later on, which we're going to get to in a second. But yeah, they get sucked into the game, and at first they're kind of like, what's going on? Like, because it feels very real. And then they realize that what's actually happening is this game is being generated off of Jubilee's memories. So they're revisiting a lot of old moments, which is why it kind of lines up with some old episodes. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, and you pointed out that you're rewatching X-Men now.
I am.
And this lined up with 2 episodes that you just watched.
Yes, I had just seen the Mojo episode where they're in the like battle royale, and then I had just also watched the Genosha episode when they're like enslaved by the people on the island. So I was like, wait, I was just here. These are my memories too. Which I think, to be honest, like I've told people, like I don't think you need to rewatch the animated series to see X-Men 97, but now that I have actually started rewatching it with these episodes, I think it does actually improve your watchability of 97, because you're not either coming in completely in the dark, because there are a lot of like aspects of these characters that I think are very much obviously follow through from the original series, but then you have little moments like this where it's like a perfect, this to me feels like something I could have watched in 1997, that this was playing off things from previous seasons, that there's such perfect follow through there. I also want to back up just a second and say I was dying when we got the dial up sound when they were getting pulled into the video game, like so aggressively 1990s. It's so great.
Us 90s babies. That almost gave me like PTSD flashbacks to having to deal with dial-up internet.
Yeah. But it's so funny too, because it's like there's probably people Gen Z that have squarely grown up in a post dial-up, because there are people,
they only know that sound because of old millennials like us talking about it.
Yeah, like I don't want to say, there's definitely still people in America that are on dial-up and some rural areas. So I'm sure there are plenty of Gen Z and Gen Alpha who have experienced dial-up. But I think for the majority of people who are younger than us, we were there when that occurred.
Get off my lawn.
We qualify for AARP.
I did actually. I got a letter from the AARP.
Well, that's because you're old.
Yesterday. Well, so it was like when I saw it, I was like, "Holy crap! I got a letter from the AARP." I'm not that old, but then I realized it was addressed to the person who had this apartment before me. So I was like, "Okay, I'm not."
I mean, technically speaking,
I've got a couple of years.
And here's a really great pitch for AARP. AARP is not just for old people. You can actually qualify for AARP earlier on, and there are certain deals that you can get by having an AARP card. I believe you have to be over 25 to apply for one.
And if you want to sign up for AARP, use our link. No, I'm just kidding. It's not.
AARP, sponsor us. Your favorite elder millennials.
They don't really do sponsorships of YouTube shows.
They could. I mean, remember, they need to start actively engaging
we're not
with
congressmen, so like they aren't going to be throwing us any money.
But we're getting there. We're getting to the age where people watching Collider Dailies might actually qualify.
Could you imagine? Well, I mean, like, could you imagine if a whole bunch of Collider folk ran for Congress?
No, but for some reason, I'm picturing an AARP joke for Magneto right now, coming from Remy.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to the episode. That was a weird tangent. After a little bit of the Genosha enslavement level, they then go into a boss fight against Magneto, against a digital earlier, like younger Magneto. And I will say this was simultaneously one of my favorite parts of the episode and also the most disappointing moment of the episode. Because they missed a golden opportunity to make retro video game nerds like myself very happy. By not having Magneto show up and say, "Welcome to die." He did, like, he just showed up and he's just like Magneto hamming it up, but not badly translated hamming up, which just made me like, I was like, missed opportunity. Could have this episode. I'm gonna say it's like a 7 or 8 for me. That would have made it a 10. Just immediately that one reference would have been enough for me. But they missed it. Come on, guys.
Especially since there were some fun Easter eggs.
Oh yeah.
In the show, I was living for when they first get sucked into the video game, and there's the Want It poster behind them of all the different mutants, and you see Pietro and Wanda, which brought me very, very much joy.
And very Days of Future Pasty.
Yeah, I was really, really excited about that. I actually need them because, like, I need the X-Men version of Pietro and Wanda to show up to soothe so many inner childhood moments for me.
Arrow says, don't say old millennial, borrow from Eliza Schleiser. We're elder millennials. See, here's the thing. I don't think that I qualify as an elder millennial. I am like a middle of the road millennial, but that's a conversation.
See, I'm not technically an elder millennial, but I believe that my life experiences qualify me to be an elder millennial because I have found myself to gravitate more towards the aspects of elder millennial, because I don't feel like the latter end of millennials at all.
Don't take this the wrong way.
I know,
like
I seem older than I am. It's fine.
Well, no, you strike me as the kind of person who, when you were a kid, you hung out with the adults.
Yes.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yep.
Arrow also said, Matrix reference with the phone booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That's how they kind of like jumped between that level. But yeah, so we got the Magneto fight. Then it is revealed that we have, because they've been getting helped by somebody throughout this episode, and then there was the reveal that they were being helped by a beta version of Jubilee, an old Jubilee, which I didn't know that I needed in my life, but I'm happy that I have it. Yeah,
and she's great.
She is fantastic. It's just Jubilee, just slightly older, with a pretty kick-ass 90s badass suit. Yeah, and so they work together, and they're able to actually defeat Mojo by having him come into the game, and he's the quote-unquote final boss. And yeah, they kick his butt like you would expect, with Jubilee showing up and just unleashing like the glass cannon that she is, and just showing that Jubilee doesn't just make sparklers, guys. She's actually like kind of OP with her abilities if she's able to let loose.
Absolutely.
We don't ever really get to see her let loose. And then that takes us into our second part of the episode, which is a storm-focused, almost like
mini
story.
You're missing a very crucial part of Jubilee and Roberto coming out of the video game. And then finally, we got them to smooch.
They smooched. Here's the thing. I expected that.
Yeah, it was obvious they were setting that up.
They haven't, like, to me, they haven't really given off romantic couple energy.
Oh, they did. They totally did.
Buddies hanging out energy.
They totally
Maybe it's because I'm a guy and I'm not very good at reading situations.
Maybe. But no, there's definitely their first introduction in the second episode. There's like two little moments they have. And then when at the beginning of this episode, they're hanging out in her bedroom and they talk about the video games. And he's like, this is a make or break it moment, which is clearly him being like, what you say next about these video games like hinges my feelings towards you, which is like such a like 90s boy thing to say. Yeah, no, I totally saw that coming. It
didn't surprise me, but I was just like I wasn't as here for it as I should have been.
Like, the thing that makes me so happy is rewatching X-Men the animated series. There's so much romance in it. There's Logan pining for Jean. There's Jean and Scott. There's Hank and his various women. That make it so much action. You have Rogue and Remy. There's like so many little moments of romance. And I think that there's like, we've talked about this before. A lot of the current MCU is very sexless. Like, there's just no like chemistry between the people. There's no actual romance. Like, the biggest romance that we've gotten was Wanda and Vision. Like, there just hasn't been any like true shipping. Like, even Pepper and Tony is not like a swooning, sweeping romance. It's very cut and dry, almost very clinical feeling.
Yeah, it's like, of course these two are getting together.
Yeah, like, of course, like, yeah, sure, whatever. I guess that makes sense. Like, there just hasn't, and even like Captain America's romances were fairly like vanilla, very bland. Like, yes, of course, these characters should be together. But X-Men, the animated series, has so much like genuine chemistry, passion, romance, and it's made for kids. So it's all very tame, obviously, but adults can read between the lines. And I think that was my biggest fear in hearing that we were getting X-Men 97, that we weren't going to get those relationships that were such a vital, integral part of what made the animated series kind of live in our minds for so long and really shape our opinions of these characters. And so to see them coming back and being like, yes, Scott and Jean, beautiful sweeping romance. We still have Logan pining. We have this weird little love triangle. And now, yes, Jubilee and Roberto are like interested in each other. And yes, they're going to kiss. Like, I love it. I love that they're not afraid of it. And then, you know, as we segue into the second half of this episode, we also have like the Storm and Forge of it all still, which
I gotta say, if I was not expecting Jubilee Sunspot to happen, I was very much caught off guard by Storm Forge. I didn't read that at all.
Yeah, I mean that was in the animated series too, and then like the comics. That's a thing.
Yeah, but even I was just like, they did not do as good a job setting this up for this season as they probably should have. Like, if I hadn't watched any of the X-Men the animated series, if I hadn't read, if I was just coming into this as a new viewer, I would look at that and just go, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, that's again why I think it's really vital now, changing my opinion on it, that you should rewatch.
That is the one thing that I'm like, you have to. Otherwise, I have to agree with your earlier statement that you rewatch it as like an enrichment thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to. This is one moment where I'm like, you kind of need to have that added context.
Yes.
It's literally his superpower to be better.
I was like, I would love to put Tony Stark and Forge in a room because I feel like Tony would finally feel like tiny in comparison.
They would also make the most badass or the most superfluously stupid thing.
Oh my god, they would like absolute stupid technology. I actually need to see this now.
Or they would like cure all of the world's problems in like an afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got a little bit of
throw in Hank in it. Throw Hank into the mix because he's also one part of his superpower is like super intellect. So
I mean, why haven't all of the geniuses in Marvel just teamed up and fixed every problem?
Probably ego.
Oh wait, that's literally a plot, and we got Ultron from it. So maybe that's not. Maybe they should be isolated. Anyways, yeah, so we got a little bit of an update on Storm's whole situation. We found out that Forge is actually the one who made the power sapping wristbands and everything, the technology that ultimately took Storm's powers away. So she's pretty upset and runs away, but then she gets brought back by kind of a deep cut character. Adversary brings her back in and kind of is like, hey, I'm here now and I'm gonna mean trouble. And then that is where that episode ends. That is where that story ends. We are going to be looking at the titles. We are going to be getting Lifedeath Part 2 on April 17th. So that'll probably be where that brings up, isn't that basically the Illuminati? Yeah, that is what happens when all the geniuses get in one room together. And it didn't go well. But yeah, it's yeah. It was a hell of a cliffhanger to leave the episode off.
I know.
I just want Storm to get her powers back. That's all I want.
I know. I love that she's getting the storyline. I think it is so compelling. I love Storm as a character so much. And I
just want to see more of it. Because right now, like since she's lost her powers, she's been the only times we've seen her have been in these little like end of the episode vignettes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the full Life Death episode just because I want to see more of Storm properly grappling with the situation that she's in, because I think it's potentially a very powerful moment, not only like for like just a wonderful character moment, but it's also like it could also be a wonderful conversation about identity and like what makes a person who they are. And I want to see more of that, so I can't wait for that episode, and I'm hoping that that's going to go more into it. It'll probably also play into the whole like bad guy of the week format that this show is following.
Yes,
but
especially since that conversation ties in with the conversation that Storm and Jean were having about the baby and like her fears about raising a child that was a mutant. And there's a lot of that identity and like their connection. And there's that really great episode we got about Rogue in like season 2 that really ties in with these themes as well about powers and all of that I think can play off quite nicely.
Yeah.
I also want to know what's going to happen to Forge because they paid such close attention to the poison like going through his bloodstream. So I want to know what's going to happen there. There's so many good poison plot lines in seasons 1 through 3. So I want to see how this one plays out.